Hey everyone, it's Alexis, and this year I want to get back into reading, and I've done that so far, and I've really been enjoying it. As I've been progressing with my reading journey, I've realized how deeply I still love books, and since I'm kind of new to this whole YouTube thing in the sense of like my personal channel, I was like, let's join Booktube, and so here we are today. So here is my Newbie Booktube tag. To start off, I'm going to start with the most like basic questions. When did you start this channel? I started this channel in December, but this is going to be a very like variety, what Alexis likes type of channel. So this isn't like a dedicated Booktube channel, but every now and then we will be doing book videos, like maybe like every 2 weeks minimum. What are some fun and unique things that you bring to Booktube? I really don't know. I like books. I think for me, it's just going to be more personality based. I think a lot of people on Booktube are very like calm, chill, and I'm chaotic. Having that like personality difference would be like what's exciting, especially when we do this new series, which I will debut in a few weeks. I think you guys are really gonna love it, but I really just want to dissect books, but not like a like, oh, only if you love books type of way, but like this is giving tea, you know, but literary edition. What are you most excited for this new channel? So again, this isn't like a brand new channel, but I think that implementing Booktube content will help me to feel a lot more comfortable, like it's doing something that isn't just like so focused on my personal life, but just like, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm reading, this is how I feel about this book. So I think it'll just give like a different aspect to myself. But I also look forward to just joining the like book community on not just YouTube, but also like TikTok, and I've even joined like a book Discord, and it's actually really fun. A lot of people think books are so dead, but people are still book lovers, physical and digital. So it's nice to just see like there is a big community for that, and I do want to like get into that. Why do you love reading? I think reading is a great way to kind of like escape. I think reading is something that's just fun, juicy, the way people feel when they watch movies, because I'm not a movie lover. Like, I don't know if I just don't have the attention span for it, but like, if you say, oh, here's a 3-hour movie, no. But if you say like, oh, here's a 300-some page book, girl, I'm gonna read it in 3 hours. But I don't know, I guess with books, it's just nice to be like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? But it keeps me on my feet in a different way than like other forms of entertainment. I am a workaholic. I am a very like productivity type of girl. So I think me getting back into reading, it was definitely I'm like tricking my brain into thinking we're having leisure time, but we're still being productive. So I love that books, 1, give you something productive to do, 2, entertainment, and 3, it's leisure time, but it's like a very healthy leisure time. It's not like doom scrolling on your phone or just binge watching a show. It's like you're actually still like learning new words, you're learning a new plot, you're like, ooh, you know, you're engaged in a different way. What book or series got you into reading? When I was younger, my love of mystery and fantasy books started. I'm mainly a mystery girl though. So when I was younger, I would read these books and I would just be like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? For mystery books, a lot of people I know were into like Nancy Drew, which, fun fact, I just read my first Nancy Drew the other night, literally. But that's not the point. Most people had like Nancy Drew, or they had like for horror, thriller type of thing, Goosebumps, but like I actually never really read either of those. So for me, my mystery book was A to Z Mysteries by Ron Roy. I remember one book, I think it was the Island one. We read that in 2nd grade and I was like, I love this. I love it so much that I ended up getting the majority of the main series for Christmas that year. So I have at least over half of them, and those are books that like literally every few years when I like find them, I will reread them. Another series that I love, and I just remembered the name of it the other day. For fantasy, there are these books called the Spiderwick Chronicles. I like a lot of older fantasy. I haven't really gotten into like newer modern fantasy because I hear there's a lot of like romance, fantasy, and stuff like that. Another thing I've never gotten into, I've never read stuff like Harry Potter or, oh my god, y'all are gonna come for me. But this year, that's gonna change. So for me, it was Spiderwick Chronicles. I love just this aspect of like, it isn't too like far-fetched, but it's just like kids just doing like cool fantasy adventures, period. So for me, those are the things that like really made me be like, I want to read this specific series, I want to read a specific author, and I want to read stuff that reminds me of these things. What kind of books do you like to read? So I actually just got into it, but my favorite is mystery. I'm a mystery girly. The majority of these books in this stack are mystery books. The majority of books I've read this week, mystery books. I also love fantasy, but I don't like fantasy that's just like corny. Like I love stuff that's like it actually has like a plot, which honestly, looking at all the fantasy books I like, it really is still a major aspect of mystery and a little hint of thriller. For me, I love thrillers too, but one thing I've noticed, when you see modern books that are marketed as thrillers, it's always a romance plot, which I don't mind, because a lot of these like newer like women authors that you might see on, I see like Book Talk and also Popular Book in like Barnes & Noble, or that you might see advertised on like Kindle and stuff like that. Like those are books that like I enjoy it, but it's like when I think of thriller, I'm thinking more of like horror type of vibes. Regardless, I still love them, it's interesting, but I just think the only thing about modern books, it's just a little bit too romance focused, but at the same time I don't mind. I've been getting into it, but I remember just being a kid and just being just like, wow, these are some cool kids on an adventure. But nowadays it's more, you know, spicy, whatever, which I'm okay with a little bit of spice, just not too much spice. For me, I just want something that's like from the beginning to the end, there's an issue, let's figure it out. And I think in life I'm just like that as a person. Like I love figuring things out, I love figuring people out. Yes, I have a degree in psychology. That's a story for another day. So next I saw this thing called Ask Me Book Lovers. It was a post on Pinterest, and so I'm gonna do like a rapid fire answering those questions. Favorite book? Oh my gosh. I don't think I really have a favorite book. When I was younger, my favorite series was A to Z Mysteries. I really love those books. In terms of my favorite book of all time, I don't think I have a favorite book, to be so real with you, but I've had a lot of books that I've loved that I own, and also books I've got from the library, so maybe I'll discuss that in a future video, but I don't really think I have a favorite. Book you just finished? Oh my gosh. I finished 2 books last night, so I got a few short books from the library. This one is called Horror at the Haunted House, which it was good. And then I also finished my digital book, which was The Wife Before. So Horror at the Haunted House is fiction with like supernatural elements, a little bit of a mystery element. And then The Wife Before, it is a psychological thriller, definitely Kindle friendly. I enjoyed both of those books. I think The Wife Before had a few like things that could have been clarified a little bit better, but for the most part, loved them both. Finished those last night. A must-read book. Oh my goodness. I have some must-reads that are like, ooh, it was good. And then I have some must-reads that are like, it's a hot mess, but I love it. So a must-read that I just read recently is called Hello Stranger. That's a book that I got from the library a few weeks ago, and honestly, I loved it so much. As somebody who loves psychology and stuff like that, they mentioned this condition called prosopagnosia, which is pretty much face blindness. Now, as somebody who went to school for psychology, I would say prosopagnosia, that's one of the like most complicated conditions for me personally to understand. Even reading this book, I think the way they explain that condition is something that even if you have no familiarity with this condition or psychology, it makes it pretty easy to like kind of understand that this is something that's real, this is what people live with. And also for me, as someone who had to study it, it helped me to clarify some points of like, how does one actually like live with this and what exactly does it look like. It was a cute like romance book, but I love romance books where it's not just, oh, she's so hot and like he's, you know, I'm reading a book like that right now and I am literally like dying. I've read like 5 other books since starting that book last week. That's how you know that book is bad. It's not bad, but just like the characters, they're so realistic to the point where it's bad, if that makes sense. It's a mess. But I love how that book was just like, this is an awkward girl, her life is a mess. A lot of people can relate to that. You know, her life is a mess. She's trying to figure out what to do with her life. She has family issues. And it's like, even though it had all these different aspects of her, the author like perfectly explained it from beginning to end. Honestly, I may buy that book. That was a great book. To me, that's definitely a 5-star read. I don't know if that's my favorite, but it's definitely my favorite so far that I've read. Favorite book genre? Mystery. Period. And then after that, fantasy. Favorite place to buy books? If I ever buy books, I would buy them from Barnes & Noble in the past, but I haven't bought a book in a long time. I think the last few times I did buy a book, it was from Amazon, and usually those are for recommendations. Other than that, I don't really buy them as much. I've been going to the library a lot this year, and so it's been nice to just pick out books without, you know, having to invest any money in them. If I love them, I love them. If I don't like them, That's it. Read or write? I also want to be a writer. I love writing more than I love reading at one point, but now I feel like it's kind of shifted where it's like I like writing, but I also don't really give myself enough dedicated time for it. So giving myself at least about an hour and a half minimum to read a day has definitely helped me to rediscover that passion, and then also just have something fun to do that, again, isn't as like tedious as my other endeavors. Book you never finished? I finished all the books that I read, but I would say this book that I'm reading now, It Started With a Kiss. It's one of those books where I read a romance book a while ago, and it started off so slow. And I was so confused because as someone who's not really into romance, I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just not loving it. But it's just one of those things where it took about 100-something pages to get into it. But once we got into it, it was so good. But it's just like, it took so long to like build the atmosphere and all these different characters were introduced, because it's kind of like a family reunion type of vibe, and it was a lot. So this book right here, It Started With a Kiss, it's one of those things where it has such high ratings, so I feel like it will be good, but it's just like, just this introduction of like meeting the characters, and like the guy, he's so unbearable. Like, it's so hard to read, but it's not necessarily the author, it's just like the way she's describing this man. That's not representative of all men. Like, he is someone who's really just like, the guy that thinks he's all that, like everyone will want. It's just like, I just can't. It's great writing, that's why it's so hard to read. But like, I'm gonna force myself to get into it, and once I do my books I've read so far video, I will definitely give you guys an update. But like, girl, I haven't finished it yet. I've been reading it for about a week and a half, and I'm on page 20 something. I've only read like maybe 3 days in that 2.5 week period. So bless my heart. A book you never want to end. That's how I felt about Hello Stranger. It was such a good book, but it did wrap up pretty well. But one book that I just didn't feel had like a great ending was the book I read last night, The Wife Before. I feel like at the end, she just kind of like rushed that ending, and I feel like it's okay to like imply a plot twist, but I was sitting here like, well, did he do it to himself? Did the wife do it for revenge? Like, I feel like that's something that shouldn't have been ambiguous. It should have been very direct. Like, oh, this is what happened, and this is, So I feel like that. And then also there were other things mentioned in the book. Like the prologue, at no point was the prologue ever like mentioned again later on. Or there's like the supernatural element of like the ghost of like the first wife. But it's like, what happened with that? Like, so it shouldn't have ended so abruptly. I feel like it should have clarified those other things. Even if it was like a little cheesy epilogue of like a year later and this is what happened. But I feel like that book shouldn't have ended like it did. A book you want to read multiple times. Hello Stranger. maybe Hello Stranger is one of my favorite books. I really enjoyed that, and then that may be my favorite book. It is my favorite book so far, but I have these other books I'm just like so excited to read. I would say I'm trying to think. I have so many books that I love, but I don't think I've ever had a book that I feel like all the books I love, I would read them multiple times, but I can't read things multiple times in one sitting because I remember books for years. So it's like I have to wait to like erase it out of my mind because I'm going to remember the majority of the plot. I just realized I misread the question. It says a book you've read multiple times. For me, a lot of my kid books, my childhood books, I've read multiple times, and yeah, I feel like a lot of those I own. So I've always read a variety of like something that's marketed towards younger children, but also something that's more big girl. So even when I was a kid, I had like a good variety of like, your little baby 100-something page books, but also like your like 300-something page books. I would read any of those again. I have read some of those multiple times, but mainly A to Z Mysteries, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and then I think those are the main ones. I have a few books from like high school, like the type of books that you look at and you're like, oh, but then you read them, you're like, girl, I love this. So whenever I have time, I do want to reread Fahrenheit 451, Jane Eyre. Those are my 2 favorite books from high school, period. So kind of took a long time to answer this question because I misread it, but I got a lot more than you asked for. Your favorite author. Right now I don't have a favorite author, but when I was a child, my favorite author was Ron Roy. He's the one who did the A to Z Mystery series. But right now I don't have a favorite author, but I do have a few authors that I want to look into. So I ended up picking up 2 kids' books by this lady named Peg Carrot. I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. And I really enjoyed those. So I guess if I want to go for like a kid mystery vibe, definitely checking her out again. But in terms of all these other books, I just been pulling off like random books from the shelves and just reading. So right now I don't have a favorite, but I do have a few series that I want to get into, but I'm not ready to read yet. Ebooks or no? If you would have asked me a year ago, I would have been like, heck no, I hate ebooks. But when I was still in school, I found that some of those books were just cheaper to rent as like Kindle versions. And so that's how I got into e-reading, just being cheap with my textbooks. So as a result, that made it easier for me to be like, you know what, hey mom and dad, like I want a Kindle for Christmas. They didn't give me a Kindle, they ended up getting me a Fire tablet, which it works honestly just the same. But having that like dedicated like thing to the side where I can read it at night without having a light, I can also have that without being too distracted. There's no like notifications pulling up. I think e-reading is fun because again, it's just more convenient, and then the battery life, it lasts a long time. And then again, having like a separate e-reader, if you have one of those, it also has like a, you know, kind of like be at home alone and just like no one's bothering you type of vibe. You don't have to turn on your big light, you don't have to turn on the light, like you can just sit there and just vibe. So ebooks are something that a year ago would be like, absolutely not. Nowadays I love them. I hate to say it. Every single day I read at least something in my ebook because I want to keep up my streak with Kindle. So since about the end of January, I've been reading every single day on there. Sometimes I read more. Like last night I read like 200 something pages, and then some days I just read a little bit, just say I read like 5 pages. But then I mainly try to squeeze in my physical books because I get them from the library, and I only have 2 weeks for those. So a lot of times my ebooks is just like a nice like cute little story in the background while I'm reading like these other physical books. So it's just different, but I didn't think I would like it, but I ended up loving it a lot. Why do you like reading? So I know this question came up earlier. I like reading because it's just a nice escape. It's like a healthy, productive leisure time. How often do you read? I read every single day. I read at least something in my digital book every day. And some days I may skip my physical book if I'm just like really exhausted or have something else that's more of a priority to do. But for the most part, I try to read that every single day as well. A book that took the shortest time to read. So I grabbed these 3 books. So this one is Nancy Drew, Nancy's Mysterious Letter. And then I have 2 Pet Carrot books. First one is I'm Not Who You Think I Am, and then Horror at the Haunted House. So the Nancy Drew book is about 170 pages. The I'm Not Who You Think I Am book, that was about 150 something pages. And then Horror at the Haunted House, that's my shortest one so far. That was 130 something pages. So all of those books were very much short reads, stuff that you can read in like literally like an hour or 2. It was nice to like have something that was like not this big bulky book, but something that also was like quick to get to the point. Because one thing about mystery, I love mystery down, but when you see a mystery book that's like 300 pages, it's like, girl, at some point in that book you are going to be like, okay, let's get to the plot. Like, I'm invested, I just want to know what happens. And you usually feel that way at about 170 pages, because it's like, okay, we have 100 and like whatever more pages left. What else do you have to say? Like, who did it? Who's the killer? Who's the like, what happened? So have these short books is like, oh, so and so was trying to kidnap. So, you know, it's just like, okay, cute, we got to the point. I like stuff like that. It also reminded me of like why I even got into stuff like mystery and like fantasy to begin with. So those are nice, cute short reads. Your first book. I feel like my first books as babies, my mom kept them. I don't know the name of them, but one was like this collection of children's stories. So stuff like Mother Goose and, you know, like all that. It was a thick book with gold edges. I love that. And then the other book, it was like a like kid-friendly like Bible type of book. I liked the cover because it was cute. It had a lot of nice illustrations. As someone who's not like particularly like religious, I do think that book is like a very cute way to like talk about Christianity, but also not like, you know, like kind of force it down your throat. That makes sense. So it was like a nice, you know, cute little thing. Like, I love the illustrations. If I ever find those books, I will show you guys in future. A book genre you dislike. I don't dislike it, but I can't get into romance. But it's so crazy because I say that, but every time I've read something that was like romance, I've loved it. But I've noticed I don't like stuff that's like marketed as romance. Like, if the genre is romance, I already know it's a book I don't like. But if it's a book like a mystery book or a psychological thriller and it has aspects of romance, I love that. But I think that when the whole like thing is, oh, woman going through life troubles and oh my god, a man is coming to, like, I can't. But if it's one of those things where like for example, this fantasy book. They were trying to figure out why was this wizard like here? Why was he inhabiting the house? Who is the wizard? But then the main characters, they were like slowly falling in love. See, to me, having that like well-developed subplot of like this is the story, but we're also doing this too. I love that, but I can't just read straight like romance. The most expensive book you own. I think the most expensive books I got was the Harry Potter book set. I think that was about $50 something for that paperback series. So it's not really like expensive, but that's the most money I've paid at once for a book. The thickest book you've ever read. The thickest book I've ever read was either Origin by Dan Brown or Jane Eyre, which I believe it was Origin, but I actually love both of these books. I know some people don't really particularly love Dan Brown, including one of my friends. I know that book particularly. I don't know if it's because it's the most recent or what, but I actually really enjoyed that book a lot. I would reread that one. How many books do you own? I have no idea. I probably own, I know at least 100, but now that I've been more into like my library era, it's one of those things where a lot of my books are just packed up in a tote in my mom's storage unit, so I really don't know. A lot of times when I go to the library, I might get like about 6-ish books for the 2-week period. So what I own, I have no idea. I know I have 3, 4, I have probably about 20 here. I know I have probably about 20 here. You can't really see them because they're behind this right here. So I know I have to have at least like maybe 200 plus. I don't know. But a lot of them are like books I've had since childhood or middle school, high school. A book you haven't started. Pretty much all of these. There are a few books behind the camera. We can't really see them. So I'll pop in the picture. The Door, which is a fantasy book. I guess it's about this whole like this, I don't know if this like ghosts or whatever, they come to these people and then they have to like travel to this different universe, but then they're not sure if they can get back. That's the vibe I'm getting from reading the cover. I can't wait to read that, but that's like a fantasy type of book that I like. But then there's also this You Should See Me in a Crown, which I love it because, you know, as a black girl, it is nice to see black representation, but I think a lot of times when you read black literature, it's always about black oppression. And black people are so much more than oppression and enslavement. Although that is important too to acknowledge, I think it is nice to see like, you know, black girl just being a black girl. But this story does kind of play on the whole like black oppression trope too. So I'm still excited to read that, but I think that's more of like I see it says it's like a romance type of vibe, so I don't know exactly what's going on, but it's giving like small town girl trying to make it, struggling, awkward girl. It's kind of giving the same vibes that Hello Stranger gave, so love that. Then I have this book right here. It's called Ace of Spades. That's another like African American book, but it's about these high school students, and I guess these spies are like trying to like bring them down or whatever, mess up their reputation. Seems very interesting, but it's a very long book, so I'm gonna read that last, but that is due back next week, so I definitely have to get going on that. It's about 400 something pages. Then I have this book right here. It's called The Vanishing Stair. So that's something I saw last week when my friends and I went to the library. It's a mystery book, and I'm trying to figure out, it kind of reminds me of this book I just recently read called The Bitter Past, where it's like you have a plot going on right now in present history, but then you also have something from decades ago. So it's like while you're trying to figure out what's going on today, it also was like, well, what really happened then, because what happened then is playing a role in what's happening now. There's some type of like corruption, conspiracy. So I like The Bitter Past, but the only thing I didn't like about it was that undeveloped subplot, and also just the development of the characters, because it was kind of sexist. But the plot itself, it was good. So I think The Vanishing Stair would be good. I hope it's just not dragged out. But then I also have the 3 main Alex Rider trilogy books. So those are actually my friend's books. She wanted me to read them because she loves Alex Rider down. I did read one Alex Rider book one time in like 7th grade. It's been about 10 years. Oh my god. So it was for like a little project, but I'm like, I really remember liking that book. So my friend was like, you gotta read these. So I had to read those 2. And then behind this, for my birthday, I asked for 3 series. The Five Nights at Freddy's trilogy. So that should be a short series. I think those are about 200 pages each. So it's 3 of those. And then I finally want to get into the Hunger Games series. So those 4 books, I don't have the prequel. I don't think so. Or maybe that is the prequel. Oh, I think it is. Then Harry Potter. Although I do want to like get into those right now, I don't want to sit here and just like just read them all at once. So when I do read, I'm going to read them in order of Five Nights at Freddy's, and then Hunger Games, and then Harry Potter. So Harry Potter is going to be like my big series. I may read that over the summer or maybe in the fall, but I know that just like the anticipation is killing me. I think that since I got these books, like I said, it's hard for me to just like forget what happened in the book. So I may like read one and then just like give myself like a little pause, or if I like really just want to go to the next book that quick, I may take a longer pause between each series, so that way I kind of feel like I've got my money's worth and I'm not just like binging my whole thing and then that's just it. So I have all these different books to read and they all seem extremely interesting. Top 3 books of the year so far. Hello Stranger. That's number 1. 2, oh my gosh, what is 2? Okay, because a lot of books I've read, I've enjoyed the plot for the juiciness, but I feel like a lot of the stories I feel like there were things that could have been better about the plot or character development. So that's hard for me to say, because I feel like Hello Stranger is the only one I've read that just like, it was just perfectly cohesive from beginning to end. So Hello Stranger is number 1. 2, I'm not gonna lie, it might be these little baby books right here. I would say 2, I'm Not Who You Think I Am by Peg Carrot. And then 3, Horror at the Haunted House by Peg Carrot. That's crazy. So number 1, Hello Stranger. 2, I'm Not Who You Think I Am. 3, Horror at the Haunted House. That's so crazy. I've enjoyed the majority of books I've read so far, but a lot of them I would definitely give like a 3-star rating, because again, some of them the plot was great but character development wasn't, or it was always something like maybe this wasn't explained thoroughly. It's just like once you got into it, it was good, but it's just like, well, this doesn't make sense. Or so I feel like it was just that like vibe of like, okay, you know, like why why did you mention this character trait about this person, or why did you mention this thing and then not really explain it? So even though I like a lot of these books, try to be very positive about these books, but you know, looking at constructive criticism, I mean, it's just like there was something missing. But I feel like these are probably the only books I've read that just like from beginning to end, oh, they ate. How do you choose books? I'll be so honest, I am a pretty cover type of girl. Don't judge me. But for me, I mainly like a good mystery book. But when I go to the library, because I've been doing that a lot recently, when I go to the library, I love mystery, so I know I'm going to get a lot of those. But when I read, I like to alternate between mystery and another type of genre. So for this haul, I didn't really care so much because I knew I got a lot of smaller books as well. So I have mainly mystery books, but usually how I choose it is mystery, something else, mystery, something else. And usually I try to get something that I like. So it might be like mystery, fantasy, mystery, and then I might do a genre that's like, I know I'm gonna love that book, or I'm gonna be like, ugh. So like romance, and then I'll go back to mystery, and then so on and so forth. So that way I'm not just like looking at one thing, because one thing I will say, mystery, I love it, but when you read too much of it at once, it is just kind of like, oh, usually mystery is a nosy white woman that couldn't mind her business, and she got herself in a dangerous situation. Boom, they found out who the killer was. They found out who the kidnapper was. You know, and it's just like, okay, it's nice, but it's kind of like too much of it at once is too much. When I choose my digital reads, a lot of times it's psychological thriller because those are popular. I'm excited to read like Freedom McFadden's books. A lot of her stuff looks good and she has amazing reviews. All the people who I trust with their book opinions, they say they love her books. So I feel even better about getting into her stuff. When it comes to ebooks, psychological thrillers, when it comes to library books, mystery, something else, mystery, something else. When it comes to books that I purchased, those are books that I know I would love, but a lot of times it's like stuff that it's maybe like a series, but it's good ratings on it, like extremely good ratings. So like, for example, I own Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I've read some of those books. I was like, I want to buy the whole series. Stuff like these books, I've never read these, but again, like Hunger Games, Harry Potter, like I trust that there's a reason why these books are like so loved. So if I buy something, it's something that like I really like trust that I'm going to love. That type of book that's just like, I'm going to get it, I'm going to read it, let me go back to the library. Something that like 10 years from now, I'm going to pick that book back up, be like, girl, I love it. If I buy a book, I have full faith in that book. If I go to the library, it's one of those things where like I'm just experimenting. Ebooks, same thing, but I like stuff that I know I'm going to turn that page. So again, those like modern day psychological thriller books, I love those like Kindle versions of them. A book you've been wanting to buy. So the last time I really wanted to buy a book were these 3 series. So again, Five Nights at Freddy's trilogy, Hunger Games, and then Harry Potter. Favorite book reviewer. So on Booktube, I mainly watch Kyra Stewart. If you didn't know, Kyra, she used to be like a lifestyle person, makeup person too, but she's transitioned to booktubing, which is good for her. I mainly discovered her because her and her husband, when they were dating, like right before they got engaged, they started this couples channel, and like they still have it, but they just don't really like upload as much anymore, which sucks. But you know, that's kind of how I discovered both her and him. But Kyra's been, you know, doing a thing because she's like been a book lover. She's always mentioned that, but now she's like really taken that leap of faith and like really gone for it, and it's been working for her. I also love this lady. If I mispronounced her name, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I believe it's pronounced Shaughnessy Schroeder. I love her books. Like, she's someone that like she gives I'm a book professional, and I ain't gonna lie, I follow both of them on Goodreads. Baby Shaughnessy, when I followed her on Goodreads, it said she already read like 37 books for the year. And mind you, it was like the end of February. I'm like, girl! And she doesn't read little books. I'm like, girl! And it's like, it's so crazy because it's like she has a life. You know what I mean? So it's like, how are you finding time to read like 500-page books a week? Like, I get it, you love it, but it's like, how do you make time for this? And it's like, it's an inspiration, but also I like that she's just genuinely like a book lover. It's not like a money grab type of thing, or like she's just someone that's just like, I love books, and like you can tell it's just like she genuinely like, this is her thing. Like, she's probably been training for Booktube since she was a child, like. But like literally, she's the type of person, she'll upload like a 2-hour like bookstore vlog. Baby, I'll watch it. I also come across like other booktubers. I've been coming across a lot more like black male booktubers as well, and it's been nice to see that representation as well. But I would say everybody that I've seen on Booktube, they are such calm, relaxing people. And one thing about Booktube is that like, if you're someone who's obsessed with numbers, like, you know, a lot of them, they don't have like a million views, but at the same time, the views they have, those are genuine views. It's not just, oh, that video went viral, boom. It's like, that's a community they have behind them. And so for me, it's like, when you see those people in the comments, those are people who are genuinely like, I love your reviews, I love the way you speak about books, like, I'm going to read this. Like, it's a community, and I think that's more important than just clicks. And you know, a lot of them I love, but I would say Shaughnessy is my favorite. After that, I love Kyra. Book recommendation: Hello Stranger. Hello Stranger, if you want like a big girl book for a child book, A to Z mysteries, definitely. And I think that's it. I would say a lot of kids books are good. Like, if you're a grown adult and you want to get back in reading, I would say get some of these kids books, because these kids books, they eat, especially these mystery and fantasy books, they eat down. But that's the last of my questions. So before I end this video, I do want to do something a little bit special. I have been waiting to do this. I have this Five Nights at Freddy's series. I have this Hunger Games series. And I have this Harry Potter series. What I'm going to do is unbox them, because these are official collections. I will be unboxing them on camera. I'm nervous because I've been waiting like almost a month. I just want to thank you guys again for watching. I cannot wait to read these. It's so weird to not see the little plastic cover on anymore. These books I'm extremely excited for. So I'm going to start with this one in a few weeks. Then I'll be getting to this one. And then the legendary Harry Potter I'll be getting into pretty soon as well. So again, thank you guys for watching. I know this was a pretty long video, but this is my introduction to Booktube, and I can't wait to show you guys new exciting content and just kind of join this community. Hope you guys have a great time reading. If you guys have any book recommendations for me, especially mystery fantasy, definitely leave it in the comments below. Also, if you guys want to follow me on Goodreads, you can do it. I will leave it in the description below. And again, this isn't a dedicated Booktube channel, so if you don't see like book content every time, please don't take it personally. I will be doing something at least like every week or every 2 weeks. So thank you guys for sticking with me, and you guys have an amazing day. Get back to reading, and bye.